Ah!
This is Megan Massacre, and you are watching The Sleep.
Steve has returned to the wonderful Love-Hate Social Club in Notting Hill, this time to chat to Megan Massacre, who was guesting for her New York Worcester Street colleague Army James in the London shop. We wanted to find out more about appearing on New York Inc., how important music is to the industry, and her personal style icons.
I got my very first tattoo about 6 months after I started tattooing, and the reason that I got it was because my boss told me I had to get it because at the time I was 18 years old, and at 18 I looked much younger. I looked about 14, so I was a tomboy. I didn't dye my hair, I wore no makeup, nothing. So my boss was like, look, the clients are coming in here. You look like a little 14-year-old tattooing with no tattoos. They're scared to get tattooed by you. You gotta get a tattoo. So I'm like, all right, I guess. He made me pick out something that day, and I had no idea what to get. So I was just paging through magazines, because they tattoo magazines with pictures of tattoos, and in the back they had tattoo flash. And I ended up picking this picture of this anime cheetah girl. And I did that because I was really into anime artwork. I played a lot of video games at the time. They were like anime style. So I was like, yeah, this is cool. It was very colorful, very girly. I got it on the whole outside of my right calf. And I did it all that night. And I remember coming home, and my mom was so mad at me. She was like, oh my God, why would you get your first tattoo the whole outside of your leg? What if when you wear dresses? And I was like, chill out, Mom, it's cool, you know? Oh, she was so mad at me. But looking back now, I don't think I made the best choice for my first tattoo. I think that him putting me in the position where he's like, you have to pick out one today, wasn't good. I mean, it wasn't that I didn't want tattoos, I definitely wanted them, but your first tattoo is always your hardest to pick out. You know, so many people want to get tattooed, but they're like, I just don't know what to get. Well, you should wait until you know what to get. And in my case, I didn't know what to get yet. And yeah, I need to know what tattoos feel like tattooing people. Absolutely, that's very important. Maybe I should have got tattooed before I learned, but in that exact moment, telling me that day I had to get something, he could have at least given me like a week to pick something out, you know, because I look at it now and I love it because it's my first tattoo. I love the experience and the meaning behind it, but I also have a giant anime cheetah girl on the whole outside of my leg, and I'm kind of over anime artwork now. So, I mean, I still like it, but it's not, now that I know a lot more about tattooing and what makes a good tattoo and all the different styles of artwork out there, I would have definitely picked something different. At the time, 10 years ago, people thought I was crazy. You know, nobody thought I was cool or like, you know, it wasn't like a rad thing to do to be a tattoo artist or be covered in tattoos as a young girl at the time. It was still weird. So my family was pissed off, my friends thought I was weird, and you know, even strangers, people I've never met before or talked to before, you know, they would literally stop me and be like, oh, you're gonna regret that when you're older. Oh, you're covered in those horrible things. And it's like, really? If somebody has a bad haircut, do you walk up to them and be like, hey, your haircut sucks? No, because it's rude and it should be seen the same as tattoos, but it's not. People think they can just walk up to you and say whatever they want, even if it's bad. But I mean, that was 10 years ago, 8 years ago, I think. And no, 10. And that's a really long time. Tattooing has changed exponentially that amount of time. So now girls, you know, whether they're tattooers or just covered in tattoos, they're almost looked at as like sex symbols. You know, they're sexy, they're cool. You see like sites like Suicide Girls and God's Girls, you know, with like these sexy, you know, nude tattooed ladies. You see them all over the covers of magazines and stuff now. And you even start seeing like, you know, mainstream designers using tattooed models. It's like really changed quite a bit. So you don't really see those same prejudices like you used to back in the day. You know, tattooing definitely was a scary thing to get into. You know, the fact that it is permanent on somebody's body for the rest of their life is very intimidating. That also makes it very exciting at the same time. You know, it's like, oh, I really want to learn how to do this. I really want to be able to put artwork on somebody that really has that meaning because it lasts forever. You know, it's like you put it on their body from now until the day they die. They're going to be walking around with that, and you did it, and it's permanent, and that's really cool. But at the same time, you got one shot. you mess it up, that's it. There's no eraser on the back of a tattoo machine, so it's also a little scary. So I would say, you know, it was both inspiring and a deterrent in a way too. It made me very nervous, but I got over that, obviously. The first time that I gave a tattoo, I was terrified. Terrified and excited. You know, I remember it just being so new, and I saw tattoos done before, and it looked like they were just drawing on people. But when I actually had that machine in my hand, it was like this big, vibrating, heavy, awkward thing, you know. And I'm just like, oh my God, what am I doing? You know, it was very surreal because it was so spur of the moment that, you know, seconds before I didn't think I'd be doing a tattoo that night, and then all of a sudden I'm doing a tattoo. So it's just all very overwhelming, you know. But I had somebody there guiding me, telling me exactly what to do. So I was just like really taking my time, like holding my breath the whole time, like please don't mess up, you know. I felt bad for the kid, you know. But it actually turned out pretty good, and afterwards, and I saw like the finished product, it was really exciting and fulfilling. You know, I think I'm still developing my own style, even to this day. Most tattoo artists, they have a certain style of tattooing or subject matter or, you know, color or black and gray, something that they specifically stick to because it's what they're comfortable with or what they like doing the most. But really, I wanted to learn every different style of tattooing since the beginning. You know, in the beginning it was mostly like traditional, and then new school was like the big new thing at the time, and then portraits, you know. So I kind of aimed to do those three things, portraits being the hardest. So it took years, you know, longer to get used to that. And then now they do like color realistic portraits, which is a relatively new thing over the past few years. And I mean, even portraits have gotten so much better exponentially over the past 10 years. It's like what they used to be and what they can be now is just like light years different. Every time I see a new style develop, I always am like, wow, I gotta learn how to do that, you know. And I just always make it a point to try to learn as much as possible. So whenever anybody asks me like what my style is, I'm like, oh, I don't know, whatever I'm into at the moment, you know. I definitely do kind of like a hodgepodge, like a combination of styles. A lot of people, for instance, ask me to do tattoos of their pets, like dogs or cats, like dressed as people. It's just like a thing that people ask me to do a lot. And I'll do like the pet in kind of like a realistic, like 3D kind of form. But then like I'll make aspects about it more traditional or cartoony and useful, like the ears or like the whiskers or something. Or then I'll do like a hat on them or like a little outfit that's like traditional, you know. I like to mix up the styles a lot. Bright colors. I really love to do bright colors too. Days and good days at the tattoo shop can mean many different things, you know. Most of them are good days, thankfully, and a good day can just be, you know, a day of doing one big awesome piece that, you know, I just really worked on and put a lot of detail and hours in, and at the end you're just really fulfilled and you're like, wow, this is awesome, you know. Or a good day can be doing a bunch of little tattoos and, you know, just like meeting a bunch of new people and like doing cool stuff. Like you don't necessarily have to do like a big crazy tattoo to have a good day in a tattoo shop, you know. A lot of the atmosphere is derived from even the other artists that work there. Sometimes you could have a slow day, nobody shows up to get tattooed, but all of us end up tattooing each other, and that's a fun good day. Or we all draw together. Sometimes we'll do collaborations. We'll all like start a painting where all of us paint part of it. It's like, usually it's always a good day in a tattoo shop, but there are bad days, and usually that derives from either somebody in the shop being very cranky and then ruining it for everyone, throwing a little hissy fit, because I will say that tattoo artists can be rather dramatic. And I think it's just because most people that have been working in tattooing and been working in it for some time never really had a normal job, never really had to follow normal rules, so, you know, they're kind of like doing whatever they want. So when somebody's having a bad day, generally everybody knows about it. Also, you know, sometimes we get clients that, you know, are kind of a pain in the butt. Not often. Most of my clients are wonderful, but it's pretty normal in tattooing to get like a nitpicky client, meaning that like, you know, if a client comes to an artist, generally, you know, they know their style, they want something that they do, they get something that the artist does, but every once in a while you'll get a client that like has no idea like what kind of tattoo style you are, and honestly doesn't really care, and they're just kind of like, I want this particular tattoo, and they go to somebody to get it done, but they're not doing their research properly, and like they're like, I have a portrait, but I want to get it done by this traditional artist that doesn't do that, you know, and they're like, well, I don't do that, and then they're like, but that's what I want, and they don't understand. So you try to like explain it to them, and then like you try to make them happy anyway and do the tattoo for them, you know, sometimes. But sometimes, in my case, like if somebody wanted something that I didn't do, which isn't much, I would send them to somebody who was better at it. But you know, sometimes I get a client who just wants to get tattooed by me. They don't care what it is, they want it, but they want something that like is really far outside like my comfort zone or something that I wouldn't normally do, and I try to talk to them about it, but they just don't want to hear it, and they're just like, no, this is what I want, you know. So that can make for a very, very stressful day. Well, you know, definitely musicians that are very popular in the mainstream culture, you know, on TV and tabloids and stuff, like people definitely want to get tattoos like them. Like all the little word tattoos that like women singers get, or like even actresses. Like I know Megan Fox has a bunch of little words tattooed all over, and Rihanna has some, and who else? I think like Angelina Jolie. Like there's like all these people who just have like these little words, and they're just like little tiny word on their rib or little tiny word on their neck, you know, or something like that. And you always have like clients, like girls coming in, bringing in pictures of them, being like, I want this, I want this. And it's just really funny because it's like kind of silly as a tattooer. Like we would never just put random little words on our body. You know, you want a tattoo that fits with the shape of your body, that's like an appropriate size, because you want it to look like you were born with that tattoo. You don't want to look like you have a bunch of little stickers stuck all over you. But hey, you can't tell everybody what to get, you know, unfortunately. I wish I could. I wish I had that job. No, you're not allowed to get that. I wish I could tell people. I think actually celebrities have some of the worst influence on what tattoos people get, because it's known in the tattoo industry notoriously that celebrities have some of the worst tattoos out of anybody. I mean, I think I was just looking at some celebrity tattoos because people show me pictures all the time, and there was this kid from One Direction. I don't know, don't listen to the band, but like I guess it's a young popular band, and they showed me pictures, and he reminded me of Sid Vicious. He had just like a ton of like little tiny scratchy little tattoos all over, and they looked like his friend did them. It didn't even look like a tattoo artist did them. I'm like, you got that in a basement? Come on, man. And you know, the same thing with like, you know, Justin Bieber's another really young musician who's very popular, and he's getting a bunch of really random tattoos all over him, and you know, other kids see that and they're being inspired to get these tattoos. And what happens is celebrities want to get tattoos. You think they have the means and the money to get the best of the best, but the problem is they don't know what the best of the best is, and a lot of them you can't tell them what the best of the best is because they're artists and they know. And when they go to a tattoo artist and they say they want this, you know, like I said before, 90% of all tattooers are not good tattooers and should not be tattooing. And like when a celebrity goes to them and asks them to do this tattoo, they're like, yeah, whatever you want. I just want to be able to say that I tattooed you. They're not giving these people the proper education. They should be telling them like, hey, look, man, you should get this a little bigger, a little smaller on this part of your body, done like this. They should be educating them. And the problem is they're not. They're just being like, yeah, whatever you want. So getting tons of crappy little tattoos all over them. They're not learning, so they don't get any better tattoos later. They just continue to get crappy tattoos, and they're influencing all these people to get more crappy tattoos, you know? And it's like, oh man, somebody's got to change. Somebody's got to change this, you know? And there's one guy, Sylvester Stallone. He always sticks out in my head. He's older now, older actor, you know, but he has some of the best tattoos ever, and it's because he has these like realistic, colorful animals tattooed on his arms, and he did his research and he looked up one of the best tattooers in the world, his name's Mike DeVries, to do realistic, colorful animals, and he sought him out and he got these beautiful tattoos. There's a smart man, and more people need to follow that kind of example. It was just like an interesting circumstance. It was years ago. It was probably about 3 years into tattooing, so I was very new, so I really wasn't that comfortable showing my tattooing to the world yet. I knew that, you know, over time I would get better, and while I was confident in my skill, you know, 3 years is not long to be tattooing. And it was actually for Miami Ink. When Kat left, they were looking for people to replace her on the show, and somebody contacted me and asked me if I would possibly be interested. And you know, I just wasn't really comfortable with all the terms, you know what I mean? It was like, okay, well, we kind of want you to be like this, and, you know, we're kind of looking for somebody who does tattoos like this, and, you know, I was just like, I don't really know if I want to conform to this kind of stuff. I just wasn't ready, and they were like, all right, well, if you don't, then you're not the right choice for this. And I was like, I'm fine with that. You know, that's okay. And I just kind of let it go. And I was just like, yeah, you know, whatever. I didn't feel like it was supposed to happen. I usually follow my gut. So years later, when I got contacted for New York Ink, I was like, yeah, I would really love to do this, you know, but I really just want to be myself. I want to look like me. I want to do the tattoos I want to do. But I mean, at this point in time, I was an older person. I was more comfortable in my shoes. I was very confident in my tattooing style and everything else. And they were like, yeah, we love you the way you are. Let's do it. And I was like, all right, this is the time then. And I'm so glad I waited. I really am. Shows kind of seem to go through trends just like anything else does. Like, you know, when Miami Ink first came out, you saw all these other tattoo shows go on TV. I think there was just Inked and Tattoo Highway, and there was like all these other tattoo shows that weren't related. And then LA Ink came out, and then after that you kind of just saw a decline in tattoo shows. Then really, you know, Miami Ink and LA Ink were really the only ones on TV, and there wasn't really any more for a while. And then, you know, that kind of phased out, and New York Ink came on TV. And all of a sudden, you had that wave again. Now there's Ink Masters, Investing, and, you know, Tattoo Nightmares, and, you know, all these, like, other shows now about tattooing. And I think it's just the next wave in the trend, and I think that the shows that aren't the best will just boop out just like last time, and then the ones that, you know, did the best will stick on and keep going, and I think that'll constantly repeat itself, to be honest. Do I think that some shows have a negative effect on tattooing? Yes. Do I think some of them have a positive effect? Yeah. You know, every show is different. The problem is not many people in TV know enough about tattooing to portray it in a proper light. I'm very lucky on New York Ink to be working with people that have been working on it for years, because they worked on LA Ink, they worked on Miami Ink, they work with the guys and they become friends with the guys, so, you know, they learn to respect tattooing, they learn about it, they know that in the middle of a tattoo they can't tell you, hey, can you redo that line over again, or can you stop for an hour? It's like, no, they know they can't do that and they respect that. I have worked on other shows, you know, I've done the show America's Worst Tattoos, and on that show nobody really worked on a tattoo show before. So it's definitely a little bit different, but they were very nice, and I was able to communicate all that with them, and it went well. I'll go ahead and say that I think what I hate the most about a lot of tattoo shows is that there's a big myth that just because you're a tattoo artist on TV or a great tattoo artist, it's not true at all. It's not. There's amazing tattoo artists on TV, but there's a lot of tattoo artists that aren't. I'm just not the kind of person to call people out, you know what I mean? Like, it's just not the kind of person I am. But I'll just go ahead and say, like, to the general public, like, just because they're on TV, it doesn't make them good. You have to actually look at their work, compare their work to other people's, you know. The game shows kind of show that, I guess, you know what I mean, when it comes to, like, Ink Masters and Best Ink and stuff like that. But also, it's a little bit in the eye of the beholder. It depends on what the judges like, stuff like that. So it's still a little bit like, you know. I really like my show because I'm really confident in all the people that are on it. I think that they're great, you know what I mean, personally. And I think that that's why the Ink franchises stayed around for a while, like Miami Ink, LA Ink, New York Ink. Maybe there'll be another Ink, who knows, in the future. And I think that stuck around for a reason, because they have good tattoo artists and respect the industry and stuff like that. Music will always be big in the tattoo scene. I mean, you know, rock stars get tattoos, and, you know, tattoo artists love music. I mean, it kind of just goes hand in hand. I mean, when I think about, like, punk rock artists, you know, you always see them with their old punk rock tattoos all over them, and I just think it goes hand in hand. I don't know why. You know, I date a musician, so obviously I like them. I don't know. I feel like the worlds are really similar, you know. My boyfriend's a drummer, and we compare our lives or what we go through sometimes, and even though he's doing a completely different job than me, they're very similar in certain ways, and that's why we're able to relate so well together. So I think that's why we're all good buddies, you know.
So what kind of music are you listening to right now?
You know, my music taste, just like my tattoo taste and my hair taste and clothing taste, change constantly. And actually, what's weird is just within the past couple of weeks, I've been kind of going through listening to all the old music that I used to listen to. Nostalgic. I've been going through like a nostalgia phase. I think like when I first first started tattooing, the very first year, there was like the Incubus album, A Crow Left of the Murder, had just come out. So like when I listen to that, I think about like that feeling of when I was learning how to tattoo. So I've been listening to Incubus a little bit. I've been listening to a lot of Sublime, which is really random. But like I used to love Sublime, and then like out of nowhere I just started listening to it again. A lot of No Doubt, stuff like that. You know, everything that I was listening to 10 years ago, for some reason I'm really into right now. Maybe because I'm so bummed out on new music right now. You know, I just haven't really heard anything that's come out recently that I really, really love. So I think that's kind of why I'm reverting to older stuff. But that's always the stuff that I have that I can count on and, you know, always go back to. So. You know, my music taste, just like my tattoo taste and my hair taste and clothing taste, change constantly. And actually, what's weird is just within the past couple of weeks, I've been kind of going through listening to all the old music that I used to listen to, nostalgic. I've been going through like a nostalgia phase. I think like when I first started tattooing, the very first year, there was like the Incubus album, A Crow Left of the Murder, had just come out. So like when I listen to that, I think about like that feeling of when I was learning how to tattoo. So I've been listening to Incubus a little bit. I've been listening to a lot of Sublime, which is really random. But like I used to love Sublime, and then like out of nowhere I just started listening to it again. A lot of No Doubt, stuff like that. You know, everything that I was listening to 10 years ago, for some reason I'm really into right now. Maybe because I'm so bummed out on new music right now. You know, I just haven't really heard anything that's come out recently that I really, really love. So I think that's kind of why I'm reverting to older stuff. But that's always the stuff that I have that I can count on and, you know, always go back to. So.
Everyone has that phase where they just give up for a few months and just go back to it.
Yeah.
What
I'm in that phase right now.
Yeah. I've done it a few times. Cool. So in terms of working in a shop with other artists, do you feel there's ever an element of competition between you all?
Yes, there's always an element of competition in every shop, and it's healthy competition. You should always work with artists that you feel like are as good as you, if not better. And then when they do an awesome tattoo, you should be like, oh man, I really got to step my game up, and the next one you do better, and then the next one you do better. And that's how you know you're in a really good shop, because you constantly are making each other strive to do better, and also inspiring one another. You know, it's like, for instance, like I've only been here for a week, but I already work with these guys so well. You know, I was doing these flowers on this one tattoo, and the next day, you know, David, the one artist here, was like, oh man, I used this color because I saw you use this color in this, and like, check that out, you inspired me to do that. And that's so cool, you know, to be able to all kind of like feed off of each other's energy. So yeah, competition is good. Healthy competition. Sometimes it gets a little aggressive, but not usually in a good shop, you know. Cover-ups are very difficult things, you know. Sometimes most times they're a lot more difficult than doing a fresh tattoo. But it does cause you to be really creative. It does. In a way, it stunts creativity because you're not working with a blank canvas and you can't do whatever you want with the art. But you have to be more creative in the way that like you have to figure out how to make great art out of something that's not so great. I guess like polishing a turd. It's like a phrase that they say in America, at least. It's like a funny thing, you know? It's like, why would you do that? Well, because the person is stuck with that turd. You know? And it's really stressful, it's really hard, but at the end when you get to look at the product and see like the complete transformation, it's really fulfilling, and you can just see it in the person's face, because half of the time these people that are walking around with these tattoos, it's like bringing them down. You know what I mean? It like affects them, whether it's a bad memory that they just don't want to think about anymore, or just something they're embarrassed of. You know, a lot of girls, you know, might have a bad tattoo and they're afraid to wear like a bathing suit on the beach because they don't want people to see it. And like, now because I changed that tattoo for them, now they're more liberated. Now they feel more confident. Like that's, giving people confidence is like a really cool thing. It really helps them out in every aspect of their life. It's really fulfilling. I've ever seen. I've seen a lot of really bad tattoos. I go on like Instagram and I follow like all those like failed tattoos sites so that you can see all the bad ones. It's like, how do you pick the worst of the worst, you know? I've definitely seen lots of tattoos of penises, and not like pretending to be penises, but people actually getting them and like tattooed on their face. Like, who does that? Come on, like what? I've seen that on the internet, but there's really not much you haven't seen on the internet. I think that some of my least favorite tattoos that I've ever done are tattoos that people come in and they make a tattoo appointment with me specifically because they want to get their tattoo by me. That's it, nobody else, you know? And they know what kind of tattoos I do. They've seen my style, they're very familiar with it. So when they come in and they say, I want this thing, and I draw it in my style, like that's what they should expect, you know? I mean, it's normal to want to change little bits and pieces here, like maybe a little more flowers or maybe like a little less swirls or something like that is typical. But I had this one guy come in and like he wanted an eagle across his back. And I'm like, oh, cool. It's gonna be really cool. And he kind of like had some pictures of some eagles and I was just like, yeah, I just wanted it like real thin, like as it was like flying forward, just like right on top of his back. So I took hours to sit there and draw this like really cool like eagle with like really cool eyes and all the little feathers and all the little details, and I brought it out to him and he's like, yeah, that's not really what I want. And I was like, fair enough. What do you want then? You know what I mean? Like, this is how I do. You know how I do tattoos, right? Like, we're talking about the same Megan Massacre here, right? And he's like, yeah, I was thinking something like this, and he had been looking at pictures on his phone and he had this picture of this tribal eagle, but it was like just 3 pieces of black shape, but it wasn't even like nice shapes, like nice tribal. It was like really blocky, like obviously done by somebody who didn't know what they were doing, but it was just like 2 big like pieces and 1 piece in the middle, like for the head, but it didn't even look that much like an eagle. So I like looked it up online and it was actually the logo for a hotel chain in like Canada. He's not from Canada. And I'm just like, you really want this like badly drawn big piece of tribal that's a logo. You really want that across your back? Like, come on, man. Like, I drew you this really cool thing. Like, I understand this might not be your style, but let's not do that. You know, and he's like, it's really what I want. I'm really sorry, but that's really what I want. And I'm like, oh, okay. He literally flew in from like far to get there. He was only there for that day to get tattooed. I couldn't tell the dude no. I couldn't turn him away. I don't have the heart to do that, you know? So I was like, all right, man, if this is what you really want, I'll do it. And I did it, and he was really happy with it. And I guess that just goes to say, like, you know, what are you gonna do? Usually when I get tattooed, it's a spur of the moment kind of situation, very spontaneous, and mostly it's because I just really don't have that much time to get tattooed. I'm working in a tattoo shop, so I'm in there a lot, but I'm always working and all my friends are always tattooing, so I don't want to ask them to not make money to tattoo me, you know, because we kind of trade and do stuff like that. So usually tattoo artists get tattooed on slow days at the shop by their friends. That's usually how it goes. Or for instance, like the latest tattoo I got was this tattoo on my arm. It's by an artist, Dave Tevenall. And he did a guest spot at a shop in New York that was only a few blocks from Wooster Street, and I found out he was there, and I was like hitting him up, and I was like, please tattoo me while you're here. And he's like, all right, come in tomorrow. So I was like, all right, and I got there, and I was like, oh man, you know, I really love your work. I really like how you do hands, roses, fire, stuff like that. You want to do something like that? And he's like, sure. You drew it up? I'm like, all right, let's do it. And that's kind of how I get tattooed. I kind of like keep an eye out for artists that I really like their stuff, you know, whether I'm friends with them or, you know, just see them on the internet. And then when they come around or we're at a convention together, you know, I look at what they're good at and what they obviously love to do, and I say, this is what I like about your stuff. Just do something cool that you'd like to do. And if you kind of give the artist freedom like that, it's really how you get the best tattoos, seriously. So that's how I get tattooed. It's been a really long time since I've worked in a shop where I've looked at the artists around me and been kind of like, eh, you know? I mean, I've just been really lucky the past like 5-6 years to have worked with some really talented people, but that kind of is how it goes. Like, shops, just like anything else in this world, you know, there's low-grade shops, there's mid-grade shops, and there's high-grade shops, and there's even like, you know, higher than that, you know, private studios and stuff like that. You know, it's really, everybody's got to kind of start from the bottom and work their way up. And, you know, definitely there were shops that I worked in that I looked at the other guys and I was just like, whoa, you know, like, this is bad. This is a good example of what not to be like, you know, and like, in general, not to sound any kind of way, but I was generally ended up, maybe not when I first got to the shop, but by the end of being at the shop, I usually became the best. And it was because just happened to be the situations I was in. I was working with people that weren't really aspiring to do anything better. They were just happy with where they were at, and they were like, whatever. It was more about money than it was about art, you know? So, I mean, I definitely got to see a lot of examples of things I did not want to be like, you know? And it's all relative too. Like if I look at a tattoo artist that's only been tattooing for a year, I don't expect them to be the best, but I'm able to look at it and tell that they're good enough for being there for a year, you know? But I've definitely had some really funny experiences, like in the first tattoo shop I ever worked at. Remember I said how that guy got up and made me do that tattoo? It's not the only time he's done that. My old boss at my first shop used to mess up tattoos all the time and just tell me I had to finish them. And like, oh, this one time was really it was really sad. I feel really bad. It's funny now looking back, but oh, I was so mad at him. He asked me to do this tattoo. I'd been tattooing all day. I had like no time. I had people waiting, and he was just sitting around doing nothing. And he was like, I need you to do one more tattoo. And I'm like, look man, can't you just do this tattoo? Like I have all these people waiting. Like he just was kind of a jerk like that. And he's like, no, you have to do it. So I'm like, fine. So like I get done all my tattoos. I sit down. I'm drawing up this tattoo. It's like a name in a heart. So I'm like, all right, how do you spell the name, you know? And he's like, here, it's here. And he's just like, shoves me this little piece of paper, and I'm like, all right. So I like look at it, and it's like really badly drawn, and I'm just like written, I can't even read it. So I'd like go to the client, like ask him, he's like, don't ask them, I got it for you. Just really crappy, you know? And I was like, fine. So I drew it all out, and I showed the client. It was spelled right, thankfully, anyway, you know, because it was like a really easy name. And he's like, I'm getting ready to do the tattoo, and he sits down in my chair, he's like, get out of here, I'm doing it. I was like, oh, so you let me draw the tattoo, but now you're gonna do, okay, fine. So I leave the shop, go up the street to get something to eat, get a call. I need you to come here and fix the tattoo. What did you do? I spelled it wrong. But I wrote it right. He's like, yeah, but I still spelled it wrong. And I was like, how do I even fix that? He's like, I don't know, but it's your problem, not mine. I got there and he was already gone. Poor guy sitting there with a misspelled name on his chest, and I had to fix it after drawing it right the first time. So I had to like figure out how to put a rose through it, and I'm like, the guy that taught me how to tattoo wasn't necessarily a horrible tattoo artist art-wise, but he just made lots and lots of dumb, stupid mistakes. Lots of them, like making the wrong amount of fingers on hands, like 2 eyes looking opposite ways, like you name it, and I was always the one that had to fix it. Always me. Lucky for those people I was there. There are lots of trends in tattooing. I mean, there's always been, just like clothing and hair, you name it, there's trends in tattooing. Like when I started, it was definitely like tribal, kanji, tramp stamps, you name it, that was it. And I would say now the trends in tattooing are, I do a lot of people's pets, dressed as people. I do a lot of that. You know, I did that on the first season of New York Ink, and a lot of people still ask me for that, and I've been seeing it popping up all over the place, and I like that trend. I love animals, so I'm happy with that one. Anything that's Day of the Dead style, do you know, like the Mexican holiday, Day of the Dead? They do all these sugar skulls, which is like a skull with all these like painted lines and like sometimes words and flowers and stuff on the skulls. So those are really popular. And also doing the girls with like the paint, like the Day of the Dead like skull paint on their face is really, really popular. That was actually, I think I first started seeing that when this artist, Sylvia G, she like painted a lot of those girls, and then I saw this artist, Nico Hurtado, who's a tattoo artist. He started tattooing a lot of them, and I think for me that's when I started really seeing the trend becoming really popular. And now it's like for years now people are really, really into that. I get so many people asking me, usually with roses. Roses will always be popular. You know, they kind of come and go, but they're back right now. Flowers. I think one of the biggest first tattoos that lots of like young teenage girls ask me for are giant rib pieces of flowers, which is really funny because the ribs are the worst place to get tattooed on your whole body. And I try to explain this to them, and they're like, oh no, I got it, I can take it. I'm like, okay. So I draw them up and they get through the outline, and then half the time I never see them again. They can't, it's so painful. So definitely lots of flowers. I would say that's about it right now. I'd love to tattoo Gwen Stefani. She's my favorite. I always say her because I'm just like, she was like, when I was a little kid listening to No Doubt, you know, she was like the first like female figure that I was like, yeah, you're a badass, but you're so awesome and pretty and, you know, fashion sense, everything. And I don't know, anything. Preferably something in my style, something really bright and colorful, you know. I would love that. You know, there's lots of There's lots of people I look up to that I think would be cool. I would love to tattoo some of my favorite tattoo artists. You know, tattooing another artist is almost like it's a bigger what's the word? Tattooing other tattoo artists and artists in general is kind of like a bigger honor than tattooing any celebrity, because they really know what they're looking at. You know what I mean? And if another artist really appreciates your work, you're just kind of like really humbled by it. They're like, really? You want to get tattooed by me? Really? You know? So I think that I would love to tattoo some of the tattoo artists that I love, you know, and painters, stuff like that. There are definitely things I would say no to, and some of those things are parts of the body. I try to stay away from the nether regions, you know. Something I've done before in the beginning of my career, because, you know, when you're an apprentice you have to do everything, and I think I've gotten my fill of them over it. And you know, I just wouldn't want to do anything hateful, like any kind of racist symbol, you know, or, you know, anything like really nasty gang related, anything that, you know, another group of people might find very offensive, because I just want everybody to be happy. That's a funny question, because I don't really feel like I derive my style from a person. I kind of do whatever I want, and then for some reason I just get really lucky that the things that I end up doing end up being trendy. I think I'm just like a little bit of like a
trendsetter.
I wouldn't call myself a trendsetter, because I don't think that a lot of mainstream people know about me that. I'm not like some big person or anything. I just think that like I just have a good eye for fashion and a good eye for hair and a really good eye for color. I think color is mostly my thing, obviously, for my hair and my clothes, you can see that. But, you know, I think that I'm just really good at picking up on trends, and I don't know, I just kind of do whatever I want. Sometimes I do things that people are like, really? Why? Like orange hair? Really? You know, and I'm like, yeah, orange hair and yellow. I love that. You know, I don't really give a shit, to be honest with you. Like, I'm not really trying to impress anybody. I'm more like, sorry. As an artist, I think that it's really important to like feel beautiful, especially like aesthetically. Like, you want everything to be beautiful around you, and you want to feel good and confident and artsy, and it comes out of me in every way, shape, and form, you know? So, I guess that's my answer.
Ah!